And we're live. Hello. A good evening to you all. It is the Monday night pontificating with Pete on generational change. And though I don't know if my connection is doing too good, as you can see, I'm rocking the Jen shirt this evening. If you guys haven't seen Jen's interview on Status Quo from earlier today with Jordan Chariton, highly recommend you check it out. It was really good from what I saw. Didn't see all of it, didn't hear all of it. But it was definitely very important. This actually came prior to her conversation, or the conversation she had with Jordan came prior to, or this is to my knowledge, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's appearance on CNN today, which we will address, and we will address with Miko Peled, assuming he's going to be here. And we're trying again. So I definitely think that without question, this is a very unique opportunity in terms of a campaign. Now, will it pay off? I don't know. But I do have confidence in Jen. I have confidence in what we're doing, that this might ultimately yield a positive outcome. But there is no question. Yes, I saw that Double K was a very generous supporter of Jen today on the show. I have to say, purple actually looks like it's a color that I can work. I think it is a color that can work for me. I definitely, like I said, I believe in Jen 1,000%. I think that she can win this race. I also believe that people are just fed up with the same old bullshit that we've been dealing with for a very long time. I know for me personally, I've been invested in this for a number of years now. You really have to have a passion for this stuff to want to put up with the BS that comes with it, especially in left politics, because there's a lot of it. I'm a very matter-of-fact person, as you guys know, and there's been a lot of stuff that we've had to deal with lately. But that's par for the course. That's what it takes. If you want to be successful in this, you have to have very thick skin. I mean, you have to have thick skin in general to be in politics, but you have to have very, very thick skin in order to deal with this nonsense, because it's very, very hard. And even in spite of all the things that we look at that are going on around us, the amazing thing from where I stand is you would think that when you are just so loathed and detested that it would just, have like a moment of clarity for some people that are in this universe. They don't have it. And especially Debbie. If there's one thing that you'll notice, if you saw the clip that she put out there from earlier today, it's not a question of whether she has more clarity. She didn't have any of it. But she basically got ratioed in a way that I have ever seldom seen somebody get ratioed. I mean, to the extent that you'd have to be as blind as a bat not to see it. But that's part of the problem with why so many people get turned off from the electoral process. Why people don't look what's going on with Jamal Bowman, whether you like him or not, in New York, and the people around him that have basically sold him out, like Mondaire Jones, because the career politician has a propensity to do these things, and it sucks. So that said, I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to head in the right direction. Again, as I said, I believe, we love you too, Double K. It really means a lot. And yes, the money is really for Colin, but he deserves it. And I am extremely grateful for all of you guys. I am hopeful, against all hope, that Mr. Peled will be here this evening, because it is 9:15 and he is supposed to be here. And he did confirm earlier. We know that he was supposed to come on last week. That didn't happen. And I don't want to be caught in a situation where I'm having to scramble again. But it could happen. Anything's possible. I am very much, as I've said before, cautiously optimistic about our opportunities that are out there right now. What gives me some hope is when I see, my boy came on here to let me know that I'm not watching the finals. Well, listen, if I'm done at a reasonable time, I'll be able to see the fourth quarter. It looks like Dallas and Boston are in a competitive game this evening. Who knows if Dallas really has what it takes to win tonight. I would say that if they did win tonight, they'd probably be pretty even money to win the actual series outright. But I think Boston will put their best foot forward and probably will find a way That won't be without Dallas giving it their best shot. I think that they'll play fine, at least from what I saw for a few minutes before I came into the studio. So, don't know how many of you are basketball fans, but of course, in South Florida, tomorrow evening, no guarantees, but it would appear likely that the Florida Panthers are going to hoist the Stanley Cup for the first time. And that would be a pretty big deal. You don't get too many championships in South Florida, if ever. The Dolphins haven't won in forever. The Heat last won in 2013, and that was the Heatles, as they were known. Wasn't really a fan because I don't like LeBron. I have my reasons. I could say I haven't liked LeBron forever. A lot of people just are starting to catch on to his antics now, and they don't really like him. Well, for me, I've never been too much of a fan. So, needless to say, this is an interesting time for South Florida for sports, but it's also an interesting time for everything that we have going on as it relates to on-the-ground efforts with the campaign. What I mean by that is, it is amazing that with the consistency of canvassing and getting out there and meeting people in the community, you'd be surprised how many people don't even know this race is going on, don't even know who Jen is. And that is why I am of the mind that I'm not 100% convinced that Wasserman Schultz is going to allow AIPAC to get involved with this race. I think she is completely content with there being no attention drawn to this race. I think that she would much prefer that no attention is drawn to this race. If that were the case, I would say that she feels much more comfortable in that prospect. Is it possible that if they sense that Jen has real momentum, that they might try to get her in some capacity? It's possible. It's possible, but I think Debbie is just counting on extremely low voter turnout to hang on to her seat. I think if anything gets out into the community that this race is happening, people would be inclined to want to at least know what this other lady's about if they don't know of her. I mean, obviously, we do have the people that voted last time, but again, it's not easy to get the message out there because there is a code of silence when it comes to politics, especially in Florida, especially in South Florida. People just, Wasserman Schultz has a lot of people under her thumb and does a really good job of just keeping people in line. And it's not necessarily that people support her. It's that they don't want to have to deal with her if they cross her. That's kind of what it comes down to. And ruling with an iron fist. That to me is a big deal. So Miko Peled is not here. Again, we'll give him a few minutes. And that is good, Metal. We're happy to have you. Colin, if you could grab the tweet that Debbie decided to put out under her name, we'll play the clip because I'm not going to wait for Miko. If he comes, he comes. If not, it is what it is. I think it's important that people understand not just what she said, but the context within which the responses came down. As I said, this was as brutal a beatdown as anything as you're going to see on social media. Not that she cares, and I highly doubt that Debbie does her own social media. She might. She might do some things. Maybe she approves the message that goes out there. But pertaining to what actually ends up happening, I really can't say. Yeah, the AIPAC money is disgusting. And Debbie takes a boatload of it, if you will. So what I want you guys to all see here is the fact that Debbie puts out this message, a great screen capture. So she says, I'll carry images of sexual violence from 10/7 with me for the rest of my life. Now, is it possible that she has seen images of sexual violence? It's possible. But again, there's a thing called doctored videos. There has been declarations from the United Nations, from, I believe, the London Times, and a lot of other places that have debunked these so-called Hamas rape videos that Debbie is so eagerly claiming is correct. And she'll say, well, they told me it was Hamas and I believe them. That's going to be her plausible deniability, but we all know that she is a mouthpiece for the Israel lobby. Full stop. And then she says, unfortunately, House GOP voted to defund programs to combat gender-based violence and assist survivors. You see, she can't even give you a coherent message without framing it in the context that there is something to be had by suggesting that, oh, and by the way, let me take a shot at the Republicans in the process, because that's all she does. That's her whole MO. Her whole MO, as I sat in a meeting with her in Hollywood last week, was to basically just point the finger at the Republicans are the cause of all your problems. And I'm going to protect you. The Democrat, I'm going to protect you. That's what she does. Thanks, Dana Bash, who is just as big a Zionist as she is, for covering Sheryl Sandberg, who, for those of you who don't know, Jen personally knows Sheryl Sandberg. And needless to say, Sheryl Sandberg is not supporting Jen for this campaign. Not a surprise. And the Vice President, Kamala Harris, for confronting 10-7 deniers and revisionists. Scroll down, please, Colin. Keep going. Stop. So as you can... No, go up. I wish I could control this. So as you can see, her ratio is staggeringly bad. And most of these tweets are retweets, are quote tweets. The responses are pretty horrific. Now, if you keep going down, keep scrolling, you'll see Z Squirrel, who I don't know, again, is an anonymous person, but brings up some very important information. There is no footage of sexual violence, rape from October 7th, as confirmed by the Israeli regime itself to Haaretz and the UN. You made that up and keep regurgitating it to the mainstream media because you know no one will call you out for your propaganda lies. And then below, as you can see, this is astonishing. The Israeli police, intelligence, and military literally confirmed to Haaretz that no photos or video footage of any rape, sexual assault exists, just as the UN confirmed. Yet they keep regurgitating this blatant lie on mainstream media with zero challenge. Well, why do you think Wasserman Schultz goes on with Dana Bash? Because Dana Bash is a Zionist just like Debbie. Debbie will never be caught in a situation on national television where she is being confronted for her bullshit. That's why she goes on with Dana Bash and Andrea Mitchell and people like that. That's what she does. The mission team, specifically the forensic pathologist and the digital analyst, reviewed over 5,000 photos, around 50 hours, and several audio files of footage of the attacks. In the methodological assessment of available photos and videos, no tangible indications of rape could be identified. While the mission team reviewed extensive digital material depicting a range of aggressions violations, no digital evidence specifically depicting acts of sexual violence was found in open sources. Beyond this, from inquiries put to 3 bodies in the defense establishment by Haaretz, it emerges that the intelligence material collected by the police and the intelligence bodies, including footage from terrorist body cameras, does not contain visual, documentation of any acts of rape themselves. Keep scrolling. And now, as you can see, over and over and over again, people highlight things like how much money she's taken from AIPAC. All the people that have an opinion or want to deliver a fact. And as you can see, it's pretty universal in the hundreds, if not thousands of messages now, because this has been reconfirmed multiple times. Scroll up for a second. So scroll for a second. I want to hold this. In that CNN video, DWS claims she watched a video filmed by Hamas of its members cutting off breasts while raping. She's lying. Israel authorities and UN say no videos at all exist of rapes taking place. And yet apparently the vice president also went out and said the same thing, went out and reaffirmed Sheryl Sandberg's message. Now, why does Sheryl Sandberg factor into this equation? For those of you who don't know, Sheryl Sandberg is one of the, I believe, founding members of Facebook. She is a multi-billionaire, and she is a substantial donor to the Democratic Party establishment. So everything always gets back to money and power, kind of like Bill Ackman and the things that he does in terms of trying to get the establishment to walk the line as far as he's concerned. That's a big part of it as well. So what is this brouhaha all about? And as I said, you could go on there, you could see it. She has been buried into the ground. Jen has gotten some good traction from that. But here's the important message. This is what she said when she went on CNN with Dana Bash earlier today.
Was sexual and gender-based violence that occurred on October 7th, that Hamas uses it as a weapon of war, and that any organization, either international or domestic, that denies it is essentially allowing the commission of acts of violence again and again.
So let's remember a few things here. Number one, notice how she's squirming when she talks and blinking a lot. It's usually a giveaway. The thing to remember here is when you have mass famine, starvation, dehydration, all of these set in motion catastrophic elements that occur as a result of a genocide, you want to try to mitigate the losses as much as you possibly can in this moment. But not only is that not happening, but you have somebody like Wasserman Schultz who is willing to go on to national television and continue to perpetuate this lie, this insane lie. For what purpose? Well, she takes a substantial amount of money from the Israel lobby. And that's how she maintains her power structure. And that is what matters to her, full stop. She does not care one iota about her constituents or the country at large, and especially about the people in Gaza and the West Bank. Why? Because she doesn't see them as human beings. She has never said the word Palestinian or Palestine, and she's not going to, whether she believes it or is paid to not say it. That's the reason. That's why she does what she does. And found total vindication in the 4 hostages that were rescued and the 274 Palestinian civilians that were killed as a result. There is nothing redeemable about this representative. There never has been. And she just gets worse and worse and worse. And for every one of you out there who actually believe that change is possible, or frankly, have a lot to say about it, but don't actually do anything about it, sign up to volunteer, because phone banking has commenced. So if you do want to see an end to this, and Lord knows I do, because I'm putting in the work every day, I would love for you guys to sign up at gen2024.org for phone banking. That would be wonderful. We'll continue.
There can't be an exception for Jewish victims. There can't be an exception for Israelis. The idea that it's Me Too unless you're a Jew is unacceptable. And, you know,
what in the flying F is she talking about? I just, it's like she's like pretending to be a victim. That's what I think it is. I can't really think of anything else. You know? In totality, I should be shocked by how far she's willing to go, but I'm really not. There is no bridge that she won't cross. So this is what we're stuck with right now. But it doesn't have to remain that way. Jimmy, much obliged, brother. Please confirm somebody reached out to get in touch.
When you have Republicans in Congress, like we did last week, defund the UN Population Fund, which provides resources all over the world to come.
The UN said today that you're a liar. So why are you even talking about them? And of course, framing it in the context that it's all the GOP's fault, that's why this is going on. It's all the GOP's fault. Saying that she's unbearable is being nice. Metal, couple of things. It is entirely plausible that there have been sexual assault victims by Hamas onto Israeli women. That evidence does not exist as of this moment. She is saying that it does, and she's lying. It has been disputed across the board, bipartisan and nonpartisan. That's why no one talks about it now, but she's talking about it because she's paid to talk about it. We'll finish it up.
Combat sexual violence against women across the globe, you can see where Republican priorities are compared to President Biden and Vice President Harris, who are using the administration's platform to lead in making sure that these crimes are not only not denied, but that there are consequences for them.
Well, I would suggest to Wasserman Schultz, or as I would suggest to the Democratic Party, you see, Debbie doesn't actually help your party. Debbie kills your party. When anybody sees her face and sees what she has to say, you know what the reaction is universally? Fuck that person. And if she's a spokesperson for the Democratic Party, fuck the party. There isn't anybody that seemingly is willing to tell her, please get off of television. It takes a lot of time and effort to build up enough ground effort, time, money, and so on in order to execute the type of well-rounded ground game that you need in order to unseat an incumbent of this magnitude. Because like I said, she will do everything in her capacity to keep her seat because it's all she's got. And she is basically willing to sell herself out full stop for her career. And in her case, all she does is just say Republicans evil, Democrats good, and the same thing repeats itself. But I got to tell you, if she's part of the Democrats, and the Democrats are not good, and there needs to be more of them that step up and say, yeah, this is a problem. We don't need people like this. They are causing more damage than they are actually helping. But again, for Wasserman Schultz, she doesn't care about any of that. What she cares about is her career. That's all she cares about. That's all she's ever cared about. That's not new. But we have an opportunity here to unseat her. And the more she chooses to go down this path of being a full-on spokesperson for the Israel lobby, and let me tell you, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when Netanyahu comes here well, to DC, I should say. But when he comes to the States in just over a month, it's going to be quite something, let me tell you. It really is. It's going to be quite something. He, without question, will be eagerly greeted by Wasserman Schultz. That is going to be a huge, huge moment, and she will be there with bells on to greet him. It may work in the short term, but it will not work in the long term. That's what you got to remember. These fights, they're very, very difficult to win, but they're worth fighting. Because I can't sit around and listen to her say that garbage. It's unacceptable. And as much as it is difficult to listen to her and look at her, I do it because somebody has to call this out. I'm glad that the majority of people, just about every person that saw this message universally rejected it. But it's not enough. On social media, it's not enough. You have to be willing to put in the work on the ground because Debbie does everything in her capacity to keep everything under her thumb. Everything. Labor, business, elected officials, the local media. Everything falls under her purview as far as I can see. Now, doesn't have quite the same effect it once did. And I don't think that she is, necessarily going to change or how much that will change if she is able to win. But I do believe that there is a chance for Jen to win. And that's why we need to fight this fight. I think that if she were to win, I think it would be the type of shot in the arm that a lot of people have been wanting to have for the longest time, because frankly, people are giving up on the electoral process, and I don't blame them. I just don't. I don't blame them for giving up on it, because you see how this is conducted. How somebody like Debbie is even included in the political arena at this point is beyond the pale. You would think that the Democratic establishment would be like, you know what? This is not helping us. And it's not. It's not helping at all. So the other thing that happened over the weekend, well, there was a couple of things that happened over the weekend. And it looks like Miko Pellet is ditching us for the second consecutive time. So Miko, with all due respect, that's the last time I'll ask you to come on. I know we're a small channel, but have a little respect. With that said, for those of you who have been paying attention, Donald Trump is a product of our system. He is only succeeding at this level because our economic and political system is broken. If this were a situation where the country had a universal healthcare system and a living wage, maybe a federal jobs guarantee, none of this stuff would even be an issue. He wouldn't, he's very charismatic, he's very entertaining, but if the country was doing well and we had a government that worked for the people and not for corporate special interests, it would be a completely different situation. It's why people do not care how corrupt he is or how many things he's done that are not on the level, because they understand. That's why you got to give people credit. A lot of times people look at Trump and they just think, oh my God, he's such a nigga. No, he's not. He's exactly what this system's all about. He just doesn't care who knows. But the system itself is rotten to the core, and there are plenty of worse people out there than Donald Trump, although people wouldn't want you to have you believe that. So one thing that Trump is much more effective at doing than, well, pretty much anything that Biden does at this point, and maybe even more so than even RFK, he picks and chooses where he's going to make his mark on social media, or in this case on independent media. He decided to do an interview with, is it Logan Paul or Jake Paul? No, it's Logan Paul. So he went on with one of the Paul brothers and had an interesting conversation. He's quite the gabber, but think about how many people are going to see this interview. Millions. As far as I remember, I think over 4 million people have seen this on YouTube already. And this gets to the independent voter, because people like Logan Paul, they're not playing partisan politics. They're not with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but they're with Trump. And that's powerful. So here we go.
All fighters, and you're a real fighter, by the way.
It's not good. It's not good. I don't shy away from conflict. My fiance has a problem with it.
Yeah.
It's not good. You're much more diplomatic than I probably would be.
It's very interesting though. So Khabib came up to me after the fight the other night, and you guys would probably say he's the best ever, maybe, and
Probably
certainly he probably is, and are very close, right? Mm-hmm. John Jones, a lot of people say.
I'd say 1 and 2.
And
the thing about Trump that you can understand in this type of a conversation is that you can see that he has real thoughts in his head. When it's not politically related, he can just have the type of sit-down conversation about something like, in this case, boxing or MMA. And while that may not appeal to a lot of people, it appeals to a lot of the country and to a lot of men who may feel that, no one's listening to them. I hear somebody like Trump and they're like, oh, he's running for president? Well, I guess if I'm going to vote for anybody, I vote for somebody like him. You're never going to see somebody like Joe Biden sit down for that type of an interview. I think Bernie Sanders did a decent job when he was on Joe Rogan a number of years back. But overall, most elected officials are not capable of talking this way, of just being themselves. And people pick up on that. That type of thing actually resonates with people. And as much of it as our good friend Double K likes to say, yes, you could say he's an idiot, but ultimately he gets people to support him in a very visceral kind of way, and that's powerful. And that's part of the reason why he's ahead and is likely to win.
He said to me, "Oh, I hope you can get in because we have to stop the wars. We have to stop the killing, the killing." He was so smart. He understood it. And I think he's friends or was friends, but I think he is friends with Putin very much.
Yeah.
But he said, we have to stop the killing. And it's true. And I think I'd have that war stopped if I was president-elect. Right after the election, if I win, I will get that war stopped. I'll get it stopped fast before I get to office. If it's not stopped before then.
Talking about Russia, Ukraine.
I'm talking about Russia, Ukraine. We'll get it stopped.
So whatever his master stroke will be, just the fact that he's saying, I will end the conflict and that'll be that, as far as I can tell, that's actually an appeal to the average independent voter who doesn't give a flying fuck about either party. It just is. People understand that war is bullshit. We'll agree to disagree on that, Double K. Whatever anybody's feeling is about Trump, bottom line, we have endless war, and the people of Ukraine are being killed left and right because we seem to think that through NATO that we can control the entire globe. We can't, and we're not going to. And the second they try to put our troops on the ground, it's going to be bad. And it will be bad. So let's see if he further comments on this, as well as if he's going to make a comment on Israel.
What do you think the government's role in enabling, protecting, or governing AI should be in general? Should this superpower be?
Just the fact that he's got these prime, like I think it's like an energy drink thing that he's promoting. The one thing about the political right, they are always ready, willing, and able to product place, no matter whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. If it's a sponsor, for the most, I'm not saying everybody, but for the most part, they'll take anything on because it pays. That's what it's about.
Become what we believe it probably will be.
Well, it is a superpower, and you want to be right at the beginning of it, but it is very disconcerting. I said, you used the word alarming. It is alarming when I saw a picture of me promoting a product, and I could not tell. The voice was perfect. The lips moved perfectly with every word. The way you couldn't, if you were a lip reader, you'd say it's absolutely perfect. And that's scary.
No, it's totally true. It's true.
In particular,
I did it.
In one way, if you're the president of the United States and you announce that 13 missiles have been sent to, let's not use the name of a country, we have just sent 13 nuclear missiles heading to somewhere, and they will hit their targets in 12 minutes and 59 seconds. And you're that country. The code.
I actually am in agreement that we have a very big problem with artificial intelligence, and I think people are really underestimating how big of a problem this is. It's kind of like what Andrew Yang used to talk about with automation. It's the same thing. The people with the power are going to do everything in their power to get as much of it as they possibly can. They're not going to relinquish it. Now, do I think that Trump would do anything to actually try to fix the problem? No, I don't. I just don't think. I don't think that he cares. I think that he cares if it's against him, but as far as anybody else is concerned, I don't see him really making that an issue. And therein lies the problem.
How's everything doing? So what do they do when they see this, right? They have maybe a counterattack. It's so dangerous in that way. Okay. In another way, it's so incredible that what they do is so incredible. I've seen it. I just got back from San Francisco. I met with incredible people in San Francisco, and we talked about this. This subject is hot on their plates, the super geniuses. Yeah. And they gave me $12 million for the campaign, which, 4 years ago, they probably wouldn't have. We had thousands of people on the streets. You saw it. It just happened this last weekend. Yep. I met with incredible people, actually. And this is this is what everyone's talking about with all of the technology. These are the real technology people. They're talking about AI. And they showed me things, but I've seen things that are so, you wouldn't even think it's possible.
I want to talk to
He's quick on the fly. He is. No, again, Trump speaks in superlatives. That's what he does. He's P.T. Barnum. He is the modern day P.T. Barnum. That's what he does. And I cannot disagree with Ray J. But remember, Logan gets hit in the head a lot. So you got to keep that in mind. Getting hit in the head a lot doesn't help you. It kind of hurts you.
I've met with pilots like beautiful Tom Cruise, but taller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Handsome, perfect people.
Ouch.
Sure, there was something there that was round and full. I met some really incredible people, tremendous people like Tom Cruise, but taller.
And it's like, oh my God, man, he is the ultimate like court jester. That's what he is. And that's a perfect screen capture. I mean, guys, come on. Give me some credit here. I totally did this by accident. Look at Logan, look at Trump. Tell me that's not perfect. Tell me that doesn't say it all right there. There was a time where I was talking to Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz, and I couldn't tell the difference. I was like, wait a minute, are you brother and sister? You don't even look alike. And then it was brought to my attention, they have different spelling last names. It was unbelievable. His was spelled one way, she's was spelled another way. But I was convinced that they were just brother and sister because we all know that he doesn't really like girls. I mean, that's what I was told. Those are the rumors. That's what I've heard all these years. That's what people have said. And so listen, I'm a very tall guy. I'm the tallest of people. I'm a very tall guy. I'm over 6'3". And then, of course, I'm looking down at Tom. I literally have to look down at him. How are you, Mr. Cruz? And this is Mrs. Cruz. And I'm thinking, no, wait, they're not married. What's going on? And they don't look anything alike. It was really, really confusing for me at the time. That's exactly what it was about. Really amazing. And as you can see, Mr. Logan Paul here is completely stunned by this story. It's the best story he's ever heard in his life. It's really incredible. Tremendous story. And I know I tell the best stories. So keep enjoying them. I mean, that, yeah. I'd say Nash was probably right about that. That's a good point. But come on now. Somebody please take a screenshot of this. Colin, screenshot this, please. I want to use this for something. I mean, this is as good as it gets. All right, we'll continue. Assuming you did.
And going like 4 times faster than my super jet fighter plane. And I look at these guys and they really mean it.
Yeah.
And am I a believer? No, I can't say I am. But I have met with people that are serious people that say there's some really strange things that they see flying around out there.
That is such a Trump move to just do that. Unbelievable. So there you go. Probably the next president of the United States again. Make America great again. I mean, the conversation just sells itself when you really think about it. And so you can almost imagine, what he would have been saying to him. So they told me about the aliens, and I wasn't convinced at first, but then they convinced me. They said I was an alien, and I'm like, well, really? How would I know I'm not? And of course, Logan just, he has the starry-eyed. Shit, maybe he's telling the truth. So you never know. Colin, we'll do one more segment. If you could pull up the clip from President Biden and Barack Obama, and I think it was maybe Jimmy Kimmel, that were doing that large fundraiser in LA on Friday, I believe it was. But the clip should be pretty easy to grab. I think, I mean, everybody is convinced that somehow, some way, that the president is going to be replaced at the convention. I don't know why you think that that is the case, because I am not convinced that that is what's going to happen. I don't know how you think you can circle the wagons with a candidate this late in the game. I think you would be asking for way too much for that to happen. That's the bottom line. You would be asking for way too much to switch from the current person. You think you can rally tens of millions of people to somebody else in that short period of time? I mean, look, I think that the calculus would simply be that if they were to do that, it really just matters in the swing states. It doesn't matter in states that are going to go where they're going to go. So anything's possible, but right now, what you have here, in this is a situation where the president went through another, what they considered a freeze moment when he was on stage. Collecting the fact that this was a fundraiser that raised almost $30 million. You know, people have a really hard time raising money in general to do a lot of things these days, but you know, this is for the presidency, and Trump, of course, has been fundraising like a madman because, of course, the legal system is obviously not working in his favor right now, and he's using that to his advantage politically. And in the case of the president, he was in LA and they did a fundraiser, and this is what happened, I believe. I don't know if this was at the beginning or if it was at the end. Cue it up, my friend. He's not okay. And I think most people understand that. And I've been saying for a long time that he has significant cognitive decline. He's had it for a while. He's probably had it for several years. It's only become too obvious now that they can't hide it anymore. And so how they think they're going to be able to sell this when people are really thinking about who they're going to vote for president, I don't know. And yes, Double K, and you could keep saying this until you're blue in the face, but it doesn't matter because the presidential election is decided by independent voters who do not care about things like that. They should care about how things ultimately break when it comes to labor, because that is the only saving grace that exists. There isn't anything else. The two parties are almost identical in almost every way except on wedge issues. Donald Trump passes the was it $2 trillion? Is that the total amount for the tax cut? Passes the massive tax cut, and Joe Biden makes it permanent. And you could say, "Oh, they were really trying to they were trying to make sure that it didn't get permanent, and he was working so hard." Come on, again, it's kind of like, you know what it's like? I'll give you a better example. It's kind of like what's happening right now with Jamal Bowman in New York City and Westchester County. If the Democratic Party really liked Jamal Bowman and wanted him there, if the president really liked him and really wanted him there, then he wouldn't be getting this level of, or his opponent, I should say, George Latimer, wouldn't be getting the type of support that he's getting. You got Mondaire Jones, who's running in the adjacent congressional district, endorsing him as well. Of course, Mondaire is, selling Jamal Bowman up the river. He's no different than Richie Torres, literally one and the same in more ways than one. And of course, you have Hillary Clinton, who had to endorse because she just is going to be a miserable crone until she goes. if the Democratic Party were really happy with Jamal Bowman, they would be encouraged. I mean, listen, no one's going to tell a person that they can't run, but there's no question that the Democratic Party establishment is in favor of Jamal Bowman losing his race to George Latimer. And in the case of, this particular race, that congressional race is very substantial and it's very distinct in terms of the differences between the two. That is a very big problem. And Mario's right. Although I don't appreciate, I wouldn't use your choice of words here, but yes, the Black Caucus endorsed Elliot Engel against Jamal Bowman. So they've come at him left and right for a while. And while I don't think that Jamal Bowman isn't without his flaws, and no, I don't think he should be kicked out of Congress for pulling a fire alarm. But again, we all know that everyone has differences of opinion in what actually constitutes a fireable offense and what should actually get them into trouble. And listen, there is no question that he should be punished for what he did. I am in full support of that. This idea that that's what's going to justify unseating or somebody having to be forcibly removed from Congress, I am not with that at all. Seems pretty petty and stupid that that's the barometer that you want to measure it up against. But ultimately, it is a reflection in the disconnect that exists within the party infrastructure as currently it stands and where it may go in the future. As of today, the Democratic Party establishment answers to corporate special interests only. It does not answer to the people. There's a reason why they are not doing anything to deal with the fact that Donald Trump is likely to win again. They are not dealing with the fact that they could have had an honest primary process, and instead, as a result, RFK is now running outside of the two-party system and is creating some serious headway. It is not a surprise that Jill Stein is the only person running for president right now that has a viable path, meaning that they're actually on the ballots, not that they have the money, but is actually on the ballots and can say clear cut that they do not support this genocide and that it must end. Well, I think people are simply getting frustrated with these electoral opportunities that are presented to them. It's easy to see why a lot of people don't go out and vote. Yes, it costs a considerable amount of money to get the word out there. However, in the case of the president, if this was truly the most important election of their lifetime, as is often said, and it's always the Democrats who say it, but now the Republicans are saying it too, because of course they are. You would think that the Democratic Party would put their best foot forward in terms of who they are going to have as their nominee for president. We are now in mid-June. And if you think that we are not late in the game in terms of when you would be making a decision about who the presidential nominee should be, what are we? June, July, August, September, October, November. I mean, we're less than 5 months from election day. That's it'll be here before you know it. And you cannot convince me that the president of the United States is likely going to be with us for another 5 years. I think that is not being presumptuous in any way. I think that's being very fair. And you know who thinks the same way? Tens of millions of people who are thinking about who they're going to cast a ballot for. And so if they choose to go down this road and continue on this path of nominating Biden for the presidency, the only people to blame if he loses is Joe Biden and the Democratic Party establishment. This is not on the voters. They have a right to who they want to support. And yes, when you talk about things like the 4,000 government jobs that are of immense importance that have to have positions placed, all those things matter. But again, who are you preaching to? You can't preach defense. You can't preach, well, you have to vote for this person, otherwise this is what's going to happen. That doesn't win. It never does, and it never will. Even in these circumstances, it doesn't work. You have to have something that motivates you to do something. it is of tantamount importance that we focus on what we can control. In the state of Florida, we have two key amendments at the state level. Amendment 3, which is the decriminalization and legalization of cannabis with home grow, which is huge. And you also have Amendment 4, which is the codification of women's bodily autonomy. I would say that those two issues are pretty significant. But if you're going to campaign on Joe Biden and the president and the Democratic Party as a means to get people to vote on this issue, you're going to lose. You'll lose the issue because this is a very independent leaning state, which happens to break in favor of Donald Trump. It did break in favor of Ron DeSantis. But I got to tell you, a lot of that, in my opinion, had to do and has to do with the weakness of the Democratic Party as it currently stands. And one of the reasons why it is as weak as it is, not just that it has a very dangerous general election presidential candidate, it also has very bad representation at the federal level in the House seats. Of course, they don't have any Senate seats, but in the House seats, it is still led by the likes of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and that's why this change needs to happen. If you want to see the type of change in the direction of a Labor Party within the Democratic Party, it won't happen any other way. But people are going to just either give up altogether or they're going to go in another direction. It will be sought out somewhere, somehow. And we're not doing ourselves any favors by pretending that President Biden is not going to lose the election, because he will. There is too much evidence. There are too many photos. There are too many comments. There's too much everything that shows that he is no longer up to the task of being president of the United States. It was never like this with Reagan. It got bad, not like this. This is on a whole other level. It's a form of elder abuse. You could call it what you want. But the truth is, it's kind of like what some are suggesting, which is, well, what about these jobs? What about No. Don't work that way. It sucks, but it doesn't work that way. And the conscious decision on this party's, the party has decided, and everyone has to accept this reality. The party has decided unequivocally that they're okay with Trump winning again. If they weren't, they would be doing everything in their capacity to figure out what it is that the people want and need in order to avoid that reality. Instead, what they're doing is telling you, vote against Trump. That's enough. You don't need anything else. It doesn't matter how high inflation is. It doesn't matter that you'll never be able to buy a home. It doesn't matter that you don't have health care. It doesn't matter you don't have a living wage. It doesn't matter that your water's poisoned or your air is going to kill you. None of that matters. An endless war is forever. But vote for us because we may be a little less shitty than they are or than he is. Depends on how you look at it. For a lot of people, they don't agree. So you can't blame the individual. The individual is looking out for themselves as they should. And the people who out there who actually think that this president is doing a good job, well, I'm sorry. He is not. And he really never has been. And his failure on the PRO Act, in addition to saying that it was the parliamentarian who says that you can't raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and both these things happened within his first 100 days, that was the failure of his presidency right off the bat. He's had a couple of good things here and there. There are some okay things that are happening with infrastructure. But in terms of the tangible things that can really improve people's lives, really improve them as a nation, not just a few segments of the population that are getting a specific type of job that are only in specific places, which are usually in swing states because they feel that that's what the vote splits are going to require for them in order to do it. This was an unsuccessful presidency since day one. And that's not even including what's going on in Gaza and how he's aided and embedded in genocide. So, what happens now? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. The only thing I know is that we have 2 key ballot initiatives here in the state, and we have a very critical congressional race that I think could really, really change the fortunes of a lot of people. And there's a reason why poor people don't vote, because they're not represented by either party, ever. So I get it. But I want you all to know that we are doing everything we can in our capacity to fight on the ground down here in Florida, because the people that do need representation are not getting it, but they'll get it with somebody like Jen, because she's not bought and paid for by corporate special interests. Our current representative is bought and paid for by corporate special interests, full stop, in the worst possible way. Like it is astonishingly bad how bad and how corrupt she really is. No, Metal, I did not talk about the right-wing shift, but this is a similar thing that happened back in 2016 when Brexit happened, and many saw it as a preempt to Trump getting elected. And a lot of people feel that this is what's happening in Europe right now for similar reasons, and that that's ultimately what's going to win the day here in America. I mean, look, there are many reasons that could happen. I'm not really sure. All I know is that if I was a betting person right now, I would bet on Trump winning again. I don't want him to win. I think we deserve much better. Trump will be good for entertainment, but that's what the comedy clubs are for. It's not for the highest office in the entire world. But we have reduced ourselves. We've reduced ourselves down to this level. And this is the problem. It is an uphill battle. We can only control what's in front of us right now. Where the chips will fall, that remains to be seen. But I think Jen has a real chance to win this election. So if you care about this as much as I do, and I think a lot of you do, and want to get involved, want to lend a hand, and make the difference that we desperately need, because that is how this change will happen, then I would encourage you all to please go to gen2024.org and sign up, because the help really makes a difference. And that is the type of change that we can effect. For example, our friend Double K lives in Wisconsin, which is going to be a swing state. Florida is not. Florida will go red, and a lot of other states will follow their similar patterns that they've been following for a number of years. I never tell anybody that they're wrong. I just happen to believe that we're in a very tricky spot right now. And I really do feel bad for a lot of people. I really do. We're seeing almost a full collapse of our system. And that is good to know. I believe that most of us, even if we have our disagreements, can still find common ground where it's necessary. And that's why I think our channel, even though it's not huge, but it has consistency and it has great people. Donald James, the Freedom House 1984, Travers, Double K, Metalopoly, Nishaba Chamak Shuti, Jennifer Perlman, excuse me. Can't mix those two up. Chris Garrett, Mario, Ray J, great to see you. Self-care maven. Jimmy Zim Zam, of course. Who else? Who else? And again, I apologize. I was hoping to have Miko Pellet on the show this evening. Maybe we might have a big guest on Thursday. I'll keep you guys posted on that one. We shall see. Enrica Jawa, great to have you here, my friend. Who else? Who else? If I'm forgetting you, let me know. Oh, So Smart, So Stupid. Interesting choice of name, I've always suggested. I think that's about it. Steve Grossman, happy to have you here, my friend. Remember, guys, check out Jen's interview with Jordan Chariton of Status Coup from earlier this evening. I think you'll really enjoy it. And let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? I think we've got everybody. Yep, that's our crew. And so for the lively crew that's been here tonight, it really means a lot. It's nothing against you, Metal. I would like to have a couple of hundred people in here and have more volunteers. It pays to... You don't know the half of it, Donald. You don't know the half of it. If you can't see it in my face, then you're not looking close enough. But this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to have a career like I have, to volunteer for Jen as many hours as I do for this cause, because I believe in her and I believe in it. It also helps that I try to live a healthy life, so I try to meal prep, I work out, try to get enough sleep, I try to read, I try to study, like learning more Spanish. Me hablo español, me llamo Pedro. Buenas noches. Mucho gusto. Mi amigos, mi amigas, mi comrades. Yes, that would be nice. But again, if you want to help, then you know what you need to do. That's what I always say. If you want to help and you want to allow me to get tired or allow me to rest, it would obviously be a big help. You see, here's the thing. Reagan's movement popped up at a time where it was ripe to succeed. You know when Reagan's movement popped up? When we were feeling the after effects of not just Watergate, but Vietnam, and the dawn of neoliberalism under Jimmy Carter, and an insane level of inflation. All very common signs. Where have we seen it before? We've seen it before. And now we're living in a similar circumstance. We have two insanely stupid and ridiculous, well, one is a war technically, and the other is a genocide. So you've got that going on. You also have people who have completely lost trust in the system, similar to Watergate. You also have rapid inflation, in which people cannot afford to live. Now, granted, things are different compared to the way that they were back in 1980 versus today, but there's still a lot of similarities. And there is this different type of politician. One was a TV personality, the other was an actor, but both very similar. The only difference, of course, is Reagan was the governor of California for 8 years. And so having this moment to recognize why these things are happening, you have to refer. You got to let people know that we're live. You got to tell people. That's what you got to do. This is a totally suppressed channel. This channel does not get traction because it's shadow banned. It's been that way for years. We're only able to get traction because people are nice enough to share this on social media, especially when we have a big guest. That's it. Everything is organic on this channel. Nothing comes from the algorithm. We caught the algorithm one time that I can recall. And that was after Matt Taibbi was on Capitol Hill with Wasserman Schultz, and he came on the podcast like the very next day. As a result, the interview caught fire, and the viewers are up to like 140,000. Now, if we had a channel that had that type of consistency, or if we were doing this for a living, then yes, this channel would be in a completely different position, but it's not. I also don't have the time, and neither does Jen. There are many more things that we have to focus on and work on, but that's where we're at. And so for all of you that are here, I am extremely appreciative and extremely proud to send the message forward, because I think it is important. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why you guys do what you do. So having you here means a lot. I promise you, we will have guests on Thursday. Thank you all. See you then.